Once upon a time, when the world was still young, there was a remote island in the middle of the ocean called Bali. The island was beautiful, with dense green forests, clear winding rivers, and white sandy beaches kissed by blue waves. However, beneath its beauty, there was an emptiness that could be felt. The island lacked a center that connected the sky and the earth, a place where humans could touch the realm of the gods. In the divine realm, the celestial abode where the gods reside among the clouds, Lord Shiva gazed upon Bali with eyes full of compassion. The sky around him was deep blue, streaked with golden flashes of light, while thin clouds swirled like cotton beneath his feet. Lord Shiva, with his bluish skin, wore a crown of light that glowed softly atop his head. He decided that Bali needed something special, a sacred mountain that would rise high, connecting humans with the gods. In the distance, the mighty Mount Mahameru, the tallest mountain in the world, stood in India, reaching up to the sky. Its peak was covered in white snow, sparkling under the sunlight, while clouds wrapped around its slopes like a silk blanket. Lord Shiva then raised his hand, summoning his magical powers. The earth around Mount Mahameru began to rumble, like the sound of 1,000 thunders echoing together. With a movement that was gentle yet filled with power, Lord Shiva lifted the peak of Mount Mahameru from its place. Massive stones cracked, and the earth shook violently as the mountain rose into the air. Dust swirled in the sky, creating a mist that obscured the sun. In the midst of this natural destruction, Lord Shiva stood firm, his eyes shining brightly like two small suns, reflecting lightning from within. With the mountain's peak hovering above his head, Lord Shiva flew across the vast ocean. The once calm sea turned wild as he passed. Waves as tall as mountains crashed with a deafening roar, slamming against the rocks on Bali's shores. Yet, under Lord Shiva's protection, the island remained safe. Fierce winds howled in the ears of the people, but they knew that something great was happening. As Lord Shiva approached Bali, the sky turned a golden orange, as if welcoming the god's arrival. The sun set in the western horizon, casting its final rays through thick clouds. And in the midst of this scene, Lord Shiva descended slowly, placing the peak of Mount Mahameru with great honor on the land of Bali. When the mountain's peak touched the earth, there was an explosion of light so powerful that the entire night sky over Bali lit up, as if thousands of stars had exploded in the sky. And so, Mount Agung was born. From its peak, now towering above the clouds, shone a golden light that never faded, even in the middle of the night. A thick mist swirled around it, carrying the fragrance of sacred flowers and incense, marking this place as the dwelling of the gods. The people of Bali, who witnessed this miracle from afar, could only gaze with their mouths agape. During the golden age of Nusantara, around the 14th century, on the beautiful island of Bali, a young man with unparalleled strength was born, Kebo Iwa. He was no ordinary human. With his gigantic body, he could lift boulders the size of mountains and dig through the earth as if it were mere sand. From a young age, his strength continued to grow, earning him praise as a hero of Bali. When the village experienced a long drought, Kebo Iwa dug a well in a short time, saving the people from hunger and thirst. Not only that, but he also protected the island of Bali from external threats. For years, Bali lived in peace thanks to Kebo Iwa. The people trusted him as their guardian, a symbol of natural strength merged with humanity. However, behind all this peace, the powerful Majapahit kingdom was planning its ambition to dominate the entire Nusantara. Kebo Iwa's invincible strength made it difficult for Majapahit to attack Bali directly. The king of Majapahit knew it was impossible to defeat Kebo Iwa by force, so they devised a cunning strategy to eliminate him. Majapahit envoys came to Bali under the guise of peace. They asked for Kebo Iwa's help to dig a giant well, claiming it would bring prosperity to both Bali and Majapahit. With his kind heart and unwavering trust, Kebo Iwa agreed to the request without the slightest suspicion. For days, Kebo Iwa dug relentlessly. Each swing of his hoe shook the earth, splitting the ground deep. The people of Bali marveled at his extraordinary strength, unaware of the lurking danger from Majapahit. Day after day, the well grew deeper, while Majapahit's wicked plan drew closer to its execution. On the final day of digging, when Kebo Iwa was at the bottom of the deep well, the deceitful soldiers of Majapahit began to fill the hole with large stones. The sound of the falling rocks rumbled like thunder, filling the air with anxiety. Realizing the betrayal, Kebo Iwa did not give up easily. He summoned all his strength, lifting the huge rocks that were burying him. The earth trembled with his power, but the sheer number of stones was overwhelming. This time, nature and human treachery united to test his might. After a hard-fought struggle, the land of Bali fell silent. The people of Bali felt an immense loss, longing for the giant figure who had always protected them. From that day on, Kebo Iwa was never seen again. In the village of Gira, there lived an old witch named Calon Arang. She was known for her terrifying black magic, causing everyone in the village to fear her. However, Calon Arang harbored deep sadness, as her only daughter, Ratna Mangali, had never been proposed to because all the young men were afraid of her mother. That loneliness turned into anger, and Calon Arang began using her black magic to punish the village of Gira. A mysterious plague spread, causing the villagers to fall ill and disappear one by one. The village that was once filled with laughter turned into a place of silence and fear. The cries of those who had lost their loved ones echoed throughout the corners of the village. King Helanga, the ruler of the kingdom, upon hearing of his people's suffering, felt a deep sense of responsibility. He invited Ampu Barada, a powerful priest known for his wisdom, to put an end to this disaster. Ampu Barada devised a plan, sending his disciple, Ampu Bahula, to marry Ratna Mangali. Through this marriage, Ampu Barada hoped to approach Calon Arang and put an end to her dark powers. In the dead of night, Ampu Bahula stole the black magic book, which was the source of Calon Arang's power, and handed it over to Ampu Barada. Realizing her book was missing, Calon Arang became furious. She challenged Ampu Barada to a fierce magical duel. However, her dark magic was no match for the holy power of Ampu Barada. In defeat, the once invincible Calon Arang collapsed and ultimately begged for forgiveness. The wise Ampu Barada forgave Calon Arang and performed a ritual to purify her soul from hatred and anger. After Calon Arang's disappearance, the plague in the village of Gira came to an end, and the villagers returned to their peaceful lives. The legend of Calon Arang lived on eternally, serving as a lasting reminder of her story. In the ancient era of Bali, when Hindu kingdoms still thrived and spirituality dominated people's lives, there lived a powerful Brahmana named Shuddhimantra. Shuddhimantra was a respected figure, renowned for his magical powers and regarded as the guardian of the balance between the human world and the supernatural realm. He lived in a sacred village at the foot of Gunung Agung, a mountain believed to be the dwelling place of the gods and the center of spiritual life for the people of Bali at that time. Shuddhimantra had a single son named Manik Angkeran. Although his father was a respected Brahmana, Manik Angkeran grew into a young man who did not appreciate the spiritual and moral values taught by his father. As time passed, Manik Angkeran became increasingly immersed in the bad habit of gambling, which at that time was considered an act against Dharma teachings. The family's wealth was depleted due to his actions, and Manik Angkeran became trapped in debt. One day, after losing all his possessions to gambling, Manik Angkeran returned home with feelings of despair and shame. He pleaded with his father to help him out of this predicament. Despite his disappointment, Shuddhimantra could not bear to see his son suffer. As a powerful Brahmana, Shuddhimantra knew that the only way to help his son was to use his spiritual powers. They both then went to Gunung Agung, which was believed to be the spiritual center of Bali at that time, where the gods and supernatural beings resided. At the peak of the mountain, there was a cave that was the dwelling of Besukih dragon, the sacred dragon that guarded the treasures of the gods. With the power of his mantra, Shuddhimantra summoned Besukih dragon. Upon its emergence, Besukih dragon, immense with scales shimmering like gold and silver, appeared from within the cave. As a powerful Brahmana, Shuddhimantra pleaded with Besukih dragon to grant him a small portion of the treasure it guarded, so that he could help Manik Angkeran pay off his debts. Besukih dragon, wise and honoring the sanctity of a Brahmana like Shuddhimantra, agreed. From its mouth, it released gold, gemstones, and jewelry. Shuddhimantra received it with gratitude and urged Manik Angkeran not to be greedy. However, Manik Angkeran's ingrained greed made him want more than what had been given. While Shuddhimantra was praying, Manik Angkeran, filled with desire, gazed at Besukih dragon's shimmering tail. In his mind, he thought that if he could cut off the dragon's tail, he would obtain even more treasure. Quickly, he drew a knife and severed Besukih dragon's tail. The dragon groaned in pain and fury. With burning rage, Besukih dragon exhaled fire that engulfed Manik Angkeran's body in an instant, incinerating him to ashes. Shuddhimantra, hearing the dragon's groans, immediately realized what had happened. With deep sorrow, he saw his son's ashes lying in front of the cave. Despite his disappointment and anger, Shuddhimantra knew that Manik Angkeran was his son, and as a Brahmana, he had the power to seek forgiveness. He then pleaded with Besukih dragon to bring his son back to life. Besukih dragon, although angry, possessed a wise heart and agreed with one condition: Manik Angkeran must promise to abandon his greed and lead a better life. With the power of his mantra, Shuddhimantra successfully revived Manik Angkeran. When he returned to life, Manik Angkeran realized the grave mistake he had made. Before his father and Besukih dragon, he vowed to transform into a better person and no longer be ruled by greed. From that moment on, in the ancient era of Bali filled with moral and spiritual teachings, Manik Angkeran lived a wiser life, firmly upholding the Dharma teachings passed down by his father. In the highlands of northern Bali, hidden among the green trees and mountain mist, lies the serene and mysterious Lake Buyan. Its clear blue waters, like glass, always exude a magical aura, as if holding many secrets from an unseen world. Long ago, near Lake Buyan, lived a simple farmer named Raka. He resided with his elderly mother in a small hut by the lake. Every day, Raka worked hard tending his rice fields and fishing in the lake. Though his life was simple, Raka always felt something was missing, as if his heart longed for something he couldn't understand. One night, as the full moon cast its silver light over Lake Buyan, Raka couldn't sleep. He felt a pull to go to the lake. Stepping carefully, he walked under the moonlight, through the mist that was beginning to settle over the surface of the water. When he reached the lake, his gaze was frozen by a sight beyond his imagination. In the middle of the lake, 7 celestial maidens descended from the sky, their wings shimmering in a kaleidoscope of colors. Gracefully, they landed on the still surface of the water, as if dancing on a mirror. They wore glittering silk scarves and radiated incredible beauty, while their long hair flowed like a gentle river. Raka could only stand in awe as he watched the maidens swim and play in the lake. Their laughter was soft like a gentle breeze, making Raka's heart tremble. However, one of them stood out. She had the most captivating aura of all. This maiden, named Rati, had a smile that radiated warmth, and her eyes sparkled like stars. Feeling enchanted, Raka couldn't resist moving closer. But he stopped when he realized that the maidens had magical scarves they had left on the lakeshore. Without these scarves, the maidens could not return to the heavens. In his desire to be closer to Rati, Raka secretly took Rati's scarf and hid it. As dawn began to break, the maidens prepared to return to the sky. But Rati couldn't find her scarf. In a panic, she called out to her sisters, but they had to return to the heavens quickly. Rati was left behind on earth, powerless without her scarf. Raka approached her and offered his help. With no other choice, Rati accepted Raka's offer to stay with him in his hut. As the days passed, Rati began to fall in love with Raka's kindness and warmth. Eventually, they married and lived happily together. However, despite her happiness with Raka, Rati never forgot her home in the heavens. Every night, she gazed at the sky, longing for her sisters and her life in the heavens. Until one day, by accident, Rati found her magical scarf that Raka had been hiding all along. Heartbroken and feeling betrayed, Rati decided to return to the heavens. Before leaving, she met Raka one last time. "I love you, Raka, but I am a celestial maiden, and my place is not on this earth. Thank you for your love, but I must return to where I belong," Rati said, her eyes filled with tears. With a heavy heart, Raka watched as Rati donned her magical scarf once more. In an instant, Rati transformed into a being radiating brilliant light, before finally flying back to the sky to join her sisters in the heavens. Raka was left standing by the shores of Lake Buyan, his heart empty. But every full moon, he returned to the lake's edge, hoping to see Rati and the celestial maidens again. And it is said that even now, on certain nights when the moon shines brightly, the locals can still see the 7 maidens descending to Lake Buyan, dancing beautifully on the water surface.